is William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I welcome you to Le Madeleine's Country French Cafe at 3072 Mockingbird Lane, Dallas, Texas, 75205. Give the restaurant a call at 214-696-0800 and tell them you want your reservations to the next activist meeting.
Welcome everybody. We're going to actually start the meeting. I don't know if the cameras are ready. John, are you filming this? Because I couldn't do it. Only the other part. Okay. But William, you're going to get this part? Cool. Great. Well, welcome everybody. 7:10 we're starting. And so pretty close on time. Welcome to our new people that have been here for the first time. Spencer I've known for a long time, but that's the first time I think he's been to our meeting. And Victor is the first time here, and William is here filming for us, and he's going to put it up on YouTube right away when the evening is over. And he's come to us pro bono here. He's helping us out just like John does. Now John's going to be filming the second hour, and he has DVDs then available. So last week we had a guy named Richard Sheridan, and his DVDs are already ready, and they're $5. So we got some great people coming to talk. Richard is a 10-year activist in the city of Dallas. So
I was going to ask what he spoke about, Richard Sheridan.
It was a general concept of getting involved and what to do with the city council. His big passion is the homeless, and and the corruption about where the money's going in Dallas. So the taxes get taken from us. And they talk about, making shelters for the homeless. There's 3,000 veterans that are homeless, and they have plans for building 3 years from now. We don't need we need permanent housing, but the need right now is right now. So we had a very good, he did a very good job speaking, and then we had some exchange, and Jimmy Moriarty was discussing some very useful plans about how you can build a structure that can house a lot of people quickly, and it can be done. So, moving forward on that, and this is how my meetings go. They're usually kind of one thing leads to another, but we have a lot to cover. And this is what we do during the first hour. We talk about what we've done the last week and what we have coming up. And one of the things we have coming up, and are you going to go to the events? Okay. We have an event that we're helping to promote. We do three things. We either put on an event, we create the venue, and we bring the speakers in and stuff like that, or we just help promote an event, or we use an event that's already going on as an outreach. We kind of check them kind of coming into the place and out of the place, kind of like for an example, it might be a Freedom Works event or a big Tea Party event that maybe the people aren't fully on board with us, but they get a good crowd. And then we can hand them something as they're coming out that can kind of connect them with us maybe. So, but this event that happened a week ago Saturday was Feeding the Homeless. And it was the Open Carry people, which are close to our heart. We very much support the Open Carry movement, and that's Murdoch. And that has to do with getting people comfortable with seeing long guns, people carrying them on the street. And this has only been in existence about 3 months, 3-4 months, and they meet every third Saturday of the month at 10 o'clock in Beale Plaza. And this last month, it got iced out, but what they did was they created an event where they were feeding the homeless, and they had donated food, yet they had their long guns on, and they fed hundreds of people. And the food was donated, the police came, there's a little video of the interaction with the City of Dallas Police. They came, wasn't that good? And and I know that cop because he came one time when we were out on the bridge, and he was very nice to us also. He said, I'm just coming to see what's going on, make sure everything's okay, and everything went well. So, again, this is an interjection here. I know there's lots of videos, and there's a lot of cops that are not being appropriate. People are getting hurt, and they're being bullies and stuff. And that's not good in any area of life. But there's a lot of good policemen, and I think we need to not overlook that. I grew up in the John Birch Society, and one of their things was support your local police and keep them independent. And that was one of the things that if we had done till now, we would have less bullies, because the police would be the peacekeepers in our neighborhood. They'd be our friends, our neighbors, and stuff like that. It's when, hi Rick, come on in. It's when they started bringing all these people from other parts of the country and for the wrong reasons and all that kind of stuff. So it's just interjecting that about the police department. I always believe, you know, we should take the high ground, you know, and be polite and do all those things like that. So it went well. So that was the event that went on. But the Richard Sheridan, like I said, his heart is the homeless situation, and he has an event. So it's the go here. Scroll up just a little. And then it's the 20. I just want to make sure it is the 20th. Okay, so on the 13th, we're going to have a speaker on Monday the 13th, and his name is Paul Turner. And he's also going to be speaking with Richard Sheridan, because Richard Sheridan has been this activist for 10 years, and he's well known with the county and the city council to the point where he's been thrown out, he's been banned, because he speaks out very boldly against John Wally Price. He talks about how we need to have voting by ballot, and why should the machines be kept on John Wally Price's warehouse, you know, and stuff like that. So he's very bold in what he does. So, can you go to the events that are coming up? Well, where we were before, but so on the 13th, during our second hour from 8 until 9, Mr. Turner, Paul Turner, is going to be speaking about the event that they're putting together, which is the 22nd of January. I'm pretty positive of this. It's the 22nd of January. It's a Wednesday. And it's called Jericho Day. And they're calling out all the homeless to come to City Hall. Now, to speak at City Hall, you have to just ask for a time. And you have to call in by the 16th to get your name on a list. And you have 3 minutes to speak. So he's organizing all this for them to come and speak, you know. So it should be a very interesting event. We as Activists for Truth just got started on getting involved with the city council. We got our feet wet because I believe, and we all believe in our group, is it's all about truth, and it's all about taking action on that truth. So a lot of us had never been to the city council, yet these are the people that are voting, and they're, you know, they're affecting our lives, you know. So we had talked about, way back when we started this group, which only started in May, the end of May, what was going to be our topic that we were going to bring to the city council. And we decided it would be fluoride, getting fluoride out of the water. It had a lot of passion about that and interest. But the time, we had to wait for our time of when we were going to do it. So it was like 3 weeks ago, 9 of us signed up to go speak at the city council. And of the 9, Albert had been a seasoned person that goes to city council quite a bit, but the rest of us had been there for the first time. It was a real learning curve. In the city of Dallas, there's 14 council people and a mayor, and then the mayor pro tem. And so you have 3 minutes, and we did the afternoon session, which the morning is better, we found out, because we had to wait 4 hours almost before we had our time to speak, because all the agenda has to go by first. So learning experience. If you go in the morning, you're in and out by 9:30 from what I understand. So little learning curves about it, plus you know, being prepared of how to speak. You know, there were a few things, glitches here and there, but it's okay. It was a learning situation. Plus, we're very passionate about fluoride, and I truly believe we will get fluoride out of the water in Dallas, because there's absolutely no good reason to have it in. Even when people say, well, what about the teeth? Because I talked to a man just the other day in a restaurant, and I said, we're working on this, and he said, but what about the teeth? And I go, in the last 2 years, it's conclusive that it doesn't help your teeth. You know, topically it can, but not ingesting it. And the damage is amazingly bad, you know? And so there's no good reason for them to be able to fight this or whatever.
I just wanted to say something.
Yes, sir.
There is 60 years of research on fluoride, okay? There is no evidence that there is anything good about helping your teeth whatsoever.
That's
okay?
right.
So if they ask you about it, just tell them 60 years of research show that there is no evidence that it helps your tooth.
That's true.
But it damages your system, your body, your brain, your muscles, cancer, diabetes, and all those good things.
And there's great websites, and so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go to the city council again. We're gonna have a little practice session prior to going. We're gonna get some little note cards set up. And the main thing is during your 3 minutes, you can mention the websites, and you all can get familiar too. If there's a great website that says Fluoride Alert, that's what it is, and it's got documentation on there. It's a fabulous one, and then you can feel more comfortable with it, and that's what it's all about. So we are moving forward on that. That hasn't been dropped at all. We're going to move forward on it, but at the same time, we kind of parallel and we add other things in there, like the homeless thing. This is another thing that we're helping to promote. We're not actually the venue people on that one. And then we continually have the Moriartys here. Now the Moriartys, hi, come on in. Are you Alice? Nice to see you in person. Welcome, welcome. Help, however you want to keep yourself situated. She's our speaker. This is Alice, who's here to speak about Common Core. And we do that at 8. And we just have an informal, the first hour we talk about our organization and stuff. And so, but make yourself at home, whatever you need to do. So thank you for coming. Maybe you like that? Okay.
I'm going to sit here on this support for this one.
Did you need a projector? I do. Oh, you're okay? So on the homeless thing, what we're doing. All right, so projects that are coming up. The Moriartys, they're an ongoing thing. When we first started this group, prior to starting this group, one of our events that we did was we rented a theater and we showed Freedom to Fascism. And that's Aaron Russo's documentary. And in the documentary, there were some key players in there, and Joe Bannister was one, and Sherry Peel Jackson, and Tom Selges. Well, we then brought them into town, and we had a live event for them at Pastor Brogan's church, and we invited a lot of people, and it was a play on the stepping forward of what we were doing, and to get a base.
Well, we have DVDs of that.
And we have DVDs of that, and all his DVDs are $5. So almost everything we've done, there's an event, that you can catch up on with the $5 DVD. And so at that event, the Moriartys had come up from Houston, and they were looking for somebody that would give them a platform because they had been business people in Libya. And they had seen the atrocities of NATO. They were eyewitnesses. They were prisoners of Al-Qaeda for 100 days. And they wanted to have somebody listen to them. They had tried calling all the Congress people. Nobody would listen. Nobody would give them any attention except Dennis Kucinich and Ron Paul. And through them, Tripoli, there was going to be an embargo on Tripoli, on food and everything, and the boat was ready to be taken. It was gonna go bad, except they got to talk to him. The Moriartys got to talk to Dennis Kucinich, and Ron Paul on the floor turned the vote, and it didn't happen.
They were voting on the war, whether to fund it or not.
Whether to fund the war.
The Libyan war.
Oh, wow. So I didn't have that right, do I?
No, and there was a bombing at Soman, which was a family home, and they killed babies and women and all kinds of people there, and we were eyewitnesses to it. And we sent those pictures to Dennis Kucinich, and he sent them around the Senate, and Ron Paul gave an impassioned speech with those pictures, and that's what made the Senate or the House not vote for the war.
Interesting.
They did not fund the war.
When I first met the Moriartys, my head was swimming because we had this big event coming on, ready to start, literally, and we had flown these people in from California and Georgia, and we had all these people waiting, and they said just a few minutes, and I'm thinking, how are we going to do this? And they're trying to tell me the story, so I think that went in like one ear and out the other, just a little.
Understandably.
But we did give them, and Rick was in the front row cheering us on. Yes, that's my Rick. So we did let them speak, and everyone in the audience was like, yes. I said, do you want to have them come back? And they were like, yes. So they did, and since then we have been very close friends and really helping to promote their information through peak sessions, and just the story is so big. It's an hour or 2 hours just to really even touch on it, and then the information happens.
And they have a DVD to sell, $10.
Yes, and they have their own DVD, which is a 3-hour DVD that tells all this background. but it's still unfolding. Big things are unfolding. They were on the Power Hour this morning, which is a show that we all should key in the phone number into your phone and listen to it, because the show, the radio show, would you look that up? The radio show.
You want the power hour?
You all need to do this because it plays throughout the day. It loops around, and it's Joyce Riley, and it's the Power Hour. You can also find it through your computer, through the internet. But there's a phone number you can call.
Just call the phone number is easy. You want it?
605.
You've got none? It's 605-562-7704.
Anybody need that repeated? Do it one more time.
562-7704.
This is for what now?
Joyce Riley. You can listen to her program every day. It loops 24/7.
So this morning,
So
the
you don't have
Moriarty's
to go
on.
any time. You can just listen any.
562-7704.
Let's say it one more
Okay,
time.
let me see it another time. Area code 605-562-7704.
What is that, the power hour?
No, that's the power hour.
That's the listen line, when you want to listen to
Yeah.
Joyce Riley, the Power Hour.
I have another number for GCN.
That's fine. If you
But you can either do GCN and then you can listen to Alex Jones and all that, but it'll ask you for a, a pound button. You have to do £2 for Joyce. This is a straight line. If you call this one, you'll get the Power Hour. And so the Moriartys were on there this morning because last week, the Libyan tribes, which they're the spokesmen for the Libyan tribes, okay, they're actually the ambassadors, they were called with some breaking information that some missiles had been shot, and that these people, and they're going to give an update about that. We'll do that in a minute. So they'll come and tell you firsthand of how that went. But I'm just telling you, it's unfolding, and they're with us right now. They're in Dallas. It's a great opportunity. We're going to do another event for them because we actually had them, and we rented a theater, and we need to have, because right now even we want Pete Sessions to unblock we want an investigation of Benghazi, and he's blocking it. He's the chairman of the Rules Committee. It's on his desk. Representative Wolf from Virginia has House Resolution 36, and it's requesting an independent investigation of Benghazi, and he's halting it. He single-handedly is halting that bill. It was a year, September 11th. He's been approached on it. He's been hammered on it, and he's not budging.
Why do you think that is?
I personally think he's protecting the people that, the Obama and Hillary, and, he must be implicated in some way, shape, or form. Why else wouldn't he? He's saying, these are the words he says, to some people he said, we don't have the money to do it. And to that you say, the helicopter, flew Obama's, animal, right? So, and how much did that cost? Or other things where money's being wasted. His other response was, there is a committee looking into it. ICE is doing a great job, and we need to let them bring their findings forward. That's what a good leader does, and that's bull. Because ICE even wants an independent, investigation, because they're working on 5 different issues. And so Benghazi, 4 people died, and we know that this cover-up, we know that, and this is where the Moriartys come 100% into play. They have first-hand information. They have the people that have the wallet of Stevens. They have all this stuff, and they keep telling them, we have it, we want to give it to you. And nobody wants it, nobody wants to open that can of worms. So, yes, sir.
I would like for you to emphasize, or us to emphasize, that Jimmy and Joanne Moriarty have probably personally themselves saved thousands of lives in Libya by helping prevent the United States government from making that war a lot worse than they made it in the first place.
That is so true. And they
Thousands
know
of
that.
lives.
The Libyan people know and cherish them. They're the mouthpieces. They're the ones that are trying. It's so horrible. And they had one of the tribal leaders on the Power Hour this morning. And Joyce has asked him before, boy, the people in Libya must hate the American people, because you hear about, even in Pakistan, when the drones come and they bomb like a wedding, But believe it or not, the Libyans don't blame us. They know that it's the government, that it's not us doing it. So they are like, we know. And all we want is y'all to leave us alone. You know, just let us fight our own situations, just like so many of them do. You know, like in Iraq and Afghanistan, it's like, leave us alone, go away. But us, most of us here in this group, and I'm imagining a lot of you people, know that it's a bigger story. This isn't all an accident. There's a plan. There's a plan for what they're doing. They take out good leaders, and, or moderately good leaders, because Gaddafi, they know all that background. When they went to Libya, they saw the life of the Libyans, and they went there with the preconceived idea that Joanne was going to have to wear her scarves, and they had a lot of protection around her because he went in there, you know, wanting to protect his wife. In a very short time, they saw that these people were wonderful people, and they didn't need to be protected. It was all fine, and it was all just souped up because they wanted to go in and stop what Gaddafi was doing, which he was giving back to the people. It was a wealthy country. They were trying to help Africa with water and the gold. So we all know that that happens in all these countries, just like Syria. I mean, they were hell-bent on going in and bombing Syria. Why? You know, oh, supposedly the leader, you know, gassed his own people. There's all these stories, and there's still stories. Like right now, this Walid Shabat guy, who is well known, and supposedly a lot of people believe him, he's passing a lie around saying that Christians are being killed and dismembered and all that in Libya. And again, what's it going to do? It's going to stir up us thinking, oh yeah, we need to go in and help. Baloney. We need to leave these people alone. Well, tonight, some of their friends from Libya are actually going to be here. A guy that's known them for a long time. I'm not sure at what point they're going to be here, but they'll be here tonight, and you can ask them questions. They've known Jimmy and Joanne for a long time. And because, you know, from the beginning, and I'm being honest in front of the Moriartys, their story was so amazing that truly, and I'll be honest, and I've been honest with them before, they came to this church, and Pastor Broden is a black pastor, you know, and we have this event going on, and they said, there's a black genocide going on in Africa and in Libya, and I'm thinking, what a perfect scam, I'm sorry, but you know, it does, it sounded like, okay, wait a second now, and nobody will listen to them, and you know, and so a lot of times when you hear an amazing story, and if you maybe don't have any basis for it, you can tend to doubt it. But over the time, over and over, there's so much documentation that what they're saying is so true. It's so sad that they're not getting any help. The Libyan people are not, and it just keeps. It's just like the Benghazi thing. If you were to tell people that aren't keeping up with this, they'd be like, well, why don't they do the investigation? You know? And then when you realize it's a plan, they don't want to do the investigation. It's really sad and it's really terrible. So that's that front that we work on, and like I'll say, the Moriartys will talk about that. The fluoride situation that we're still moving forward on. Don't think we're not, we really are. And we'll enjoy any of your help with that also, because we need to have numbers with what we're doing, and we will get the fluoride out of the water. Which, by the way, as you guys are enjoying drinking your water here, it's fluoride free. Because Park City's water, they have their own municipal water supply for 24 years. They have not had fluoride in their water, and that is, I didn't know that until recently while I'm looking this up.
Nope.
So this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh, and I looked over at Spencer. This is how my line jumps. But honestly, if we're going to fight this, you all are going to have to do this. Because you got to kind of keep it going, you know, right? You got to...
Your shoulder.
I don't know what I did.
So let me tell you, when I talked to Spencer, I was asking him if he would mention something, which I hope that's one of the things you might do at some point. We're talking about the homeless. The homeless. It was one of our events on the 22nd, because a lot of money is not being appropriated properly, and a lot of people are out in the cold, and it doesn't have to be that way. So Spencer actually went undercover, and he lived under the bridge for a while. And
In the bridge, the facility,
in the bridge.
not under a bridge.
Okay.
Like with an ID and doing that.
Okay, well, cool. And I want, yeah, and so we'll have a few minutes. I'd like you to kind of maybe give a tidbit of that, if you don't mind, tonight. And we do everything like this. If anybody's got something, but like Marjorie last week talked about general anesthetic and brought some, she has 2 degrees in biology, and brought some things to light that a lot of people maybe wouldn't even have thought about. The history of general anesthetic and stuff like that. And plus she's a big proponent of educating on the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which we've touched on, and that's very important to stay abreast of. We're going to have people here about Agenda 21, you know. There's so many issues that we've got to keep And the reason I do this too is having these topical speakers is so we know how to talk about it. You know, we can communicate it and then do a better job. And then along the way, we're going to have our bigger events. Now, Jim Crow. Yes, Jim Crow is
You talking about Jim Hero?
hero.
Sorry.
That's the other thing too. Everyone, I already told everybody this. You heard it already once. I say names wrong all the time, and that's why my friends are always supposed to help me out here.
I'm trying.
Yes, okay. Probably in February, we're going to be having him come along with Pastor Manning from New York. He's a very outspoken pastor, black pastor in Harlem. And that event's not fully put together, but it's probably February.
And if you don't think that's a big deal, I have a DVD, a Hero audio.
3 hours?
3
Yeah.
hours, 2 hours, I'm sorry.
2 hours?
It's probably a 3-hour program.
And he took out some of the portions.
And
You'll get a background on who he is and
this will get your adrenaline up if you haven't.
okay, well, there you go. That's one of those. And Joyce Riley, this woman that I just adore, she is a nurse. She was an ER nurse, heart specialist, and she actually went into Iraq and she joined up because she heard about all the atrocities of the babies that were being taken out of incubators in Iraq, you know, when they were trying to pull on the heartstrings,
That was
which
Kuwait.
was a lie, okay? Was it not, excuse me?
Kuwait.
Kuwait. Oops. I did that again. Okay, that's all right. This is how people get. Thank you. It was yes, Kuwait. That's right. Thank you guys. And that's what I need you guys for. I like you doing this. Okay. Okay. So the deal of it is she went. Okay, and she believed it. And while she was there, she got sick. She got that Gulf War illness. She came back and she was trying to be a whistleblower about it, but she had been a whistleblower before. She's she's like 60, and you wouldn't think she's tough when you look at her. She looks like a grandmother kind of. But she, oops, but she does. She's beautiful though. But she is tough, and I love her very much, and I found her by listening to her about a year ago, and then since then, she takes on people like the Moriarty. She's not afraid to take on something and expose it. So she was exposing the depleted uranium situation, which is horribly, horrible, really, really horrible. And so I asked her if she'd come to Dallas and we put on an event. That would be the one I'm talking about, where we run a theater. There's a great theater in Garland. It's $325 for 3 hours. And it holds 350 people. It's a real nice auditorium, really nice. So we're going to do a nice event, probably couple it with some other people like the Moriartys and a little bit more into it. And that should be in February, probably February 10th. But we still are putting this together also. And what I'm hoping through all of this, I know a lot of you people are some new and some not new. I want other people to do what we're doing. And I want people to see that it's not professional. I mean, this is just people. And we need to be people doing it. You know, it may not be perfect, and we try and we share ideas. We don't know that, oh, it's $325, but that's going to be our little secret. We share the ideas. We tell people about venues and where you can have events and stuff like that. And hopefully we work together and cross barriers. I'm really big on that. You know, when we started this, we're an umbrella group, you know, and we include a lot of people. So we may not agree with everybody's philosophies about everything, but we got to find what we're common on and stick together on those things. And so that's where we'll have the numbers, because the bad guys, because this is a good versus evil issue of everything. That's the whole story. And they want us to be divided. They want us to be divided by all the different things, you know, and that's what they work on. But we're going to not do that. We're going to be a family, and I'm Italian, so I'm really big on the whole family thing, getting to know people, getting to find out what your skill sets are, how you can help, what your passions are. I mean, like I say, come in court. That is really important that people, and it's a passion builder too. Because some people might say, like Eve, I talked to Eve, but Eve was a teacher for 25 years, and so is Joe. 15 years?
Joe 25, I think, 30.
Okay, something like that. So the deal of it is I believe they should get rid of, you know, the, what's the name of it? The bureaucracy that does the school. DOE. Yes, there you go. Department of Education, right. We should defund it. It should, like I'm a Ron Paul person. We need to defund all these bureaucracies and agencies. We need to have government smaller. But until we do, it might be your information talking about how terrible it is. It'll wake someone up, kind of like This is Joe behind you. He's 9/11 Truth. Okay. Now some people are like, oh, tinfoil hats. That can't happen. I wouldn't believe our government would do that. But just look at Building 7. You know, watch Building 7 fall down. You can't. You know. So if we can find the things that can wake people up, and then they say, what else are they doing? Or what else do I need to look into? What else can I, approach? So that's what we're doing with a lot of these speakers. Okay, so I think I covered kind of the basis of things of what's coming up, except that next Monday, it's not solid exactly who our 8 to 9 person is, because a lot of times when we do something, like I noticed with fluoride, people needed a second week to talk about it, digest, talk about what action we can take on it. So it might be a blessing in disguise that I don't have a guest for next week, so that we can continue to talk about it. Because then the 13th is going to be talking about the homeless. Go ahead.
I need to get a message off to our friend on the East Coast. He may be able to, it just depends on what his schedule.
Skyping, and what was the topic on that?
Common Core.
Common Core 2. Okay, so that might be a good Skyping time, and it could be a little bit more interactive for next Monday. But I'm sorry, we don't have anything set for next Monday. And then, like I say, the 13th is and then the next week after that, we're probably going to get back into talking about the activism on fluoride and making a plan, doing little scenarios and stuff like that. But that's not set in stone. So at this point, I usually tell people, look us up on the website. Okay, if you don't do Facebook, the website is so important. It's www.activistfortruth.com. There's a calendar, and then we also have our presentations posted there, so you can see what had happened the week before. And on there's contact information. You got my phone number and my email, so we can do that. So I think first, we're going to segue over here to this young lady that's here. Another part of this is, like we said, elected officials. It's our job. It's our job to vet them and to help them, to inform them, and to support them. Because just like whistleblowers, which I'm really passionate about whistleblowers, they're sticking their neck out there. I mean, Jimmy and Joanne were very, very, very affluent, okay? And they're practically homeless now, in a way, They've lost a lot, because this has been 3 years. They gave their scientists stipends, or what are they called?
Severance.
Severance. There you go. And anyway, so it's been a grind for them. Well, the same thing is for candidates. I love Ron Paul. I've known him over 30 years, and he's awesome. And he's 75, 76 years old, and campaigning is very, very hard. And there's people that do it for money, and then there's people to do it for the right reasons. And they give up time with their family, and they give up, money and everything else. So we need to find the good ones, and we need to support them. Well, today, Jennifer, okay, good. She called me, this is good for Activists for Truth. I mean, we've only been doing this since really June 1st or the end of May. And she called and said, I see you're having a meeting tonight, you're Activists for Truth. Could I have a few minutes to talk about a candidate that's a liberty candidate and stuff like that? And I'm like, yeah. Well, I let her talk a little bit, but I love Don Huffines. He's a very good friend, and Catherine, his wife, is a good friend of mine also. And I'm going to give you the floor and give you an opportunity to come talk about Don Huffines. And well, thank you, sweetheart. Yes.
Good evening. Well, like she said, I'm Jennifer. I'm with the Don Huffines Statement and Campaign. And we're currently running against a 24-year-long incumbent who has a terrible history of increasing spending, increasing regulation. And that's basically the main reason Don's running, because he believes, we should, get rid of as much regulation as possible. And he's also said that he wants to spend most of his time in office getting rid of laws as opposed to creating laws. He's already agreed that he would only serve a 3-term maximum, and term limits are another big issue for him. And we're just looking for people to, talk to voters, talk to your friends, get people involved. So if you are interested, you can please see me after the meeting and, ask me any questions you might have.
Where is the district? What district is it? What number?
District 16. It's most of Dallas County and Capel, Carrollton, Irving, and the University Park area.
And
who
incumbent?
is he running against?
Who's he running against?
John Corona, although I don't like to tell people his name.
And
yeah, I mean, if you have any questions now, I'd love to answer them, but I didn't want to take up too much of your time.
oh no, you got
There
a
is
few more
one thing we're
minutes.
not talking about. Who among us will run for a city council or city mayor? a government deal. I don't have any education. I have a 6th grade. I don't know even how to write. But I can speak sometimes,
You
okay?
sure can, you sure
But,
can.
so we really need to have somebody encourage our group to run for an office.
Oh, I agree,
That's what we need to do.
I
And
agree.
who's the gentleman running?
His name's Don Huffines. He's a commercial real estate businessman. His family's been in Dallas County for about 5 generations, so he's, really, like invested in the community, and he really just cares about Dallas County and wants to give people a more conservative option in this race that they've never had before, because John Crone has never had a Republican challenger in
If we
24
can
years.
come up with the list of libertarian when we go to the election, I don't know who is who,
Oh, well, okay.
you know?
Don
That- that-
Huffines, he's not a libertarian, he is a Republican. But the reason I decided to reach out to this organization is because it seemed like a group who's focused on, reasoning and sticking to the Constitution, and that's exactly what he represents. So I figured if anyone is interested, it's going to be really tough to defeat him, because he's been there for 24 years, so it's an uphill battle.
Don did a great interview on Chaos Radio with Lone Star Tea Party with Noel Moss. So that's a great audio of an interview that he did that I would recommend people pushing out to your.
That's a good
friends and
idea.
neighbors.
I can post it on Activists for Truth. Let's see, what
Why
are,
he's not running for a 3rd party?
Because like most liberty-minded people who do end up, running Republican, they want to win. They want to be able to have their ideas and all the good reasoning behind their decisions. They want to actually be able to get elected to office to enact that. So, unfortunately, with the way the two-party system is set up, sometimes that's just what you have to do.
Albert has a question?
I would like to know how we can access that radio or that.
I will send you a link.
Okay.
But it's Chaos Radio. It's with, and you can go to LoneStarTeaParty.com. They have a site. It's WBTM Radio, and actually, Women on the Wall, they host our radio show.
Oh, okay.
WBTM stands for We Become the Media.
Oh, that's great. That's Mel Moss. Mel Moss is a good patriot that has really, he's a great guy. He's really helped hook up a lot of things. He's always got a camera or a microphone.
So you'll send the details out.
Well, yes, I will. Once I get it from her, I'll put it on Activists for Truth on Facebook, and we'll send it out as an email also.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
Okay, and let's see.
He helped Ron Paul with his Ron Paul PAC. He set up the Ron Paul PAC, so if that gives you any kind of credit there. If he set up Ron Paul's PAC, then.
Don Huffines has a brother, Philip. They're twins, and they were very instrumental in the Iowa. They had a great commercials. They did a great job, and and he's a businessman, and he's a 5-generation Texan. So he's been around a while. So.
And he's also really accessible. Like, we have meet and greets 2 or 3 times a week. Honestly, if you wanted to come up to the office and meet him tomorrow, he would make time for you. He's honestly one of the best candidates I've ever had the pleasure to work for. So.
Oh, that's great. And is there a website? Is it just Don Huffines for Congress?
.com.
Don
He's running
Huffines.
for the Senate?
Yes, state senate.
State
When's
Senate.
the election?
We're having the primary March 4th, so there's 63 days left, so there's not that much time, honestly. And it's going to be an uphill battle, so if anyone's interested in volunteering, please,
Well, I definitely want a yard sign. So, and if anyone else needs a yard sign, would like a yard sign, please get them. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, good. Well, thank you. Okay, now I think I'm going to, okay, I think I'm going to go with the Moriartys. We'll give you maybe 5 or 6 or 7 minutes, something like that. And the Moriartys are going to bring us up to date and tell us when you're going to be on Power Hour again and different things like that would be fantastic. And then Spencer, you give us a couple minutes and that'll bring us back to our events that are coming up.
One Power Hour on the 9th.
So you're going to be on the Power Hour on the 9th.
And there's going to be 3 the Libyan tribal leaders with us at that time. What happened this last Friday is real bizarre. In fact, things have been happening. U.S. Special Forces, U.S. Craftwater, and all these guys are in Libya doing all kinds of nasty things, and 9 rockets hit an old, the legitimate Libyan air base
In the
in
past, its name is Al-Watiya.
real secure area, and,
Near the Tunisian border.
and after these rockets went off, the tribes in those areas, there's a government, but it's ineffective, and the country is in total anarchy, and it's run by Al-Qaeda mercenaries. There's gangs of these guys that go all over the country. So if the people in these little towns want to protect themselves, they have to do it themselves. So the closest little town is named La Gillette, 5,000 people. Some of the young men from that tribe went over to set up a roadblock to see who was moving in and out of that area, because they heard the rockets. Believe me, after getting 60,000 short days, those people know what rockets sound like. And they stopped. There were 3 cars approaching a checkpoint. When they got close, they sped up, took off. They stopped 2 cars. A 3rd car came back and started firing at them. One of the cars escaped, another one ran out of gas. Long and short, they captured several of these guys. The tribal members did. And they're not trying to shoot at anybody, and they've got their U.S. passports, they've got ID from the U.S. Embassy in Tripoli, they've got all kinds of stuff.
Their visa, they got a picture of their weapons that they had with them, their satellite phone, their laptop, their GPS tracking units. They told the young people of the tribe that were doing the checkpoint, they told them that they were BBC security for the British broadcasting. But when they started going through the car, they found these American IDs that matched the people. So then they said, we're with the U.S. Embassy, but when they were taken inside and really started to talk to the tribal leaders, they confessed that they were Blackwater.
They marked their drawers first.
They're
They
not.
didn't know who had a hold of them.
They have U.S. Embassy ID, but they're Blackwater.
And they can't be 200 kilometers away from Tripoli if they're embassy security.
Yeah,
Complete lie.
They have no authority to be on the ground.
Almost immediately, we put that news out almost immediately, flooded all the news about the guys were captured and that the Libyan government was going to turn them over to Belhaj, who is the head of Al-Qaeda in Libya.
But it's not the government who had them, it was the tribes.
Yeah, but what the news said, it was the government had them, and then Belhaj was going to release them back to the U.S.
Belhaj
It stinks.
Belhaj was in Guantanamo.
It
well-known
stinks.
Al-Qaeda leader.
It stinks.
Yeah.
Same thing with that young man that was killed a few weeks ago in Benghazi. They said he was a teacher. Not true. He was in a CIA compound. They first of all said he was an English teacher. If he was an English teacher, he was teaching Al-Qaeda how to speak English. And then they said he was a chemistry teacher. If he was a chemistry teacher, he was teaching them how to make bombs. But he was in a CIA compound. And he had been, for 2 days, he had been in Tripoli, not Benghazi, with John McCain, the traitor McCain, and this little guy named Geet, who McCain is trying to promote as the new leader of Libya. Well, nobody wants him. He's not even Libyan.
Well, he's Libyan, but he was adopted by a Jewish family in Switzerland and raised in Switzerland as his Irish. And they're trying to place him into Libya.
And the Al-Qaeda, the guys that are in control and own Libya now, don't want to give up their deal. They own the country, they get all the money and everything. So when they saw this man in Tripoli,
There's spies in Tripoli who fed the information back to Ansar al-Sharia in Benghazi, to Hassan bin Hamid, who's one of their leaders there, who was involved in the
Same guy
attack
that
of
killed
Chris
Chris
Stevens. They laid in wait and they shot him, and there's no joggers in Libya. They showed a picture of him jogging with these earphones in. That was a setup. Nobody jogs in Libya, and they don't have any foreign teachers in Libya.
unless
They
he's
don't
got a
need them.
Kevlar jogging suit, you know, he wouldn't be jogging anywhere in Libya. But these are the kind of lies that are coming out. Plus, we found out just recently that special forces of the U.S. attacked an area in Misrata and captured one of the real bad guys. This is special forces, U.S.
We pray and hope that this is going on because Barack Obama's in Hawaii and he doesn't have any input into what's going on, so that maybe they're cleaning up some of the Al-Qaeda.
Why these rockets hit there, I don't know, because the phony governments there is the U.S. installed entities. All these Al-Qaeda are U.S. Here's another thing we just found out. Last January, the Department of State here put a $10 million award up for information provided by anybody that would cause
to
arrest.
arrest somebody involved in the killing of Chris Stevens.
Now, we had foreign intelligence agencies in our home April, May, June Nobody mentioned that after they destroyed us. We've lost everything. He said we partially home. No, we're homeless. We're in the street. And this $10 million, they want to know about Benghazi, what happened. We've got the names of the guys that orchestrated the attack by phone. We've got their names and addresses and everything, and their family as witnesses to it. We've got a guy that filmed everything inside the Benghazi compound when it was happening. He can be arrested. He can rat on the rest of them. We've got all the information anybody would ever want about Benghazi, and nobody wants it from us, including Pete Sessions, including David Dewhurst, including all these guys. We tell them we got it. Well, now we find out there's a $10 million reward for this. Gosh, that'd help us and help a lot of Libyans
There's a
too.
congressman in the, I don't know what district it is, he's in
Austin. Montgomery County, yeah.
Michael McCall is his name. He's the head of the Homeland Security Committee. He's the one who, actually our Libyans told us this. They said they're paying money. They're trying to get information about Benghazi. They said, we have it, but you need to be paid for it. And they need to be paid for it. And he said, we're not going to release anything until you set it up correctly. But McCall found out about this $10 million that was put out last January and never put out into the public, ever. And he said in this report, he said, why would you take a tool like that and hide it? That's a great tool to try to find out who committed this. And it's
Who was
been
the
hidden.
Secretary of State?
The Secretary of State has hidden this information. Their excuse was, well, we haven't got the proper security around that information.
But
What
we
does that
actually have 100% of enough evidence. We know the guy that is holding the personal effects of Chris Stevens. We gave his name up.
Well, Dr. Jerome Corsi wrote a story on that.
Yes, sir.
No, I'm sorry. I just-
Well,
So, you know, that's the story. It's stinky. It's
Also-
continuing to get stinky.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I want to help you a little bit. You know the sign that you made, it's got an orange color. Do you know what's the reason you use orange?
Because it's the most vibrant, it stands out the most.
No, this is the offensive color. That's the NATO color. And the American flag is going that direction. If you use light color combination with this one, it's a new world order. So there's people like me that understand the meaning of this color. It's very offensive. For people that want to vote for freedom, they don't want to have anything to do with the new world order. This is the color of the new world order.
I don't believe that was intended.
Okay, if you don't believe me, just look at the flag, American flag, it's going that direction.
I think what she, but the
It's a
other,
marketing strategy.
she said it wasn't the intention of it,
Okay.
the intention of
I
it.
know, it's not intentional, but, you know, maybe you can
That's good
change
to
it,
know.
have that, you know, something about it. You can change the color.
No, they have very good marketing, other pictures and stuff, and he is against the New World
All
Order.
orange.
He's Ron Paul, big time.
Okay,
and
orange is out and light blue is out.
You and Kelly.
Right.
Okay, yes, sir.
I think it's interesting that Sessions says there's not enough money to do this investigation, and yet the $10 million is up for the.
Yes.
And he didn't mention that to us.
No.
And neither did any of the foreign intelligence agencies that talked to us. And they didn't have a dime of help for us or the Libyans or anybody.
Well,
No wonder.
And from what I understand, maybe the Congress doesn't know about this, from what isn't that what you
Yeah,
just
that's what
said?
Michael McCall said.
Michael McCall, he is a congressman down in the Austin area, and he's also head of the Homeland Security Committee. He said that the Congress didn't know about this money that had been allocated through the State Department, which is, you know who that is, go ahead.
you say that the so-called reward may be fishing to find out
Exactly.
who knows how much and what they know and how accurate is it they know.
We've been verified. They've already verified.
And by the way,
Well, I'm
just for
saying
people that
that's-
haven't,
That may be the reason they're
Oh, yeah,
offering that.
that's why we're not gonna, we're
people
not
that
gonna.
haven't heard the update, you know, we did end up getting a meeting with Pete Sessions, and he has verified everything they said to be true, because he did go to the DIA, and the DIA admitted that they did meet with them, and all this is true, and it's still, the ball drops. It's very, very frustrating. It's just terrible. I mean, I can't even think of a worse word. Albert, and then we're gonna go to Spencer.
Jimmy, if you put together a package of phony sculpted data on that, like they want you to do, you could probably get the $10 million.
Beat them at the road
You know
game.
what you have to do? You have to say that video, it was that video that incited the
We have proof
riot,
that the
you know?
video was there.
Yeah, the video. I don't know if y'all know what that
Oh,
joke
I
is,
forgot
but
to
it's a
tell y'all
joke.
one
It's a
thing.
joke. Okay.
The Libyans gave us the one Sunday, the one Saturday they called us and they said there's a steamship, big steamship disguised as a fishing vessel that is headed to one of the northeast ports in Libya, gonna be handed over to Muslim Brotherhood, taken by land through Libya, by land through Egypt, and into Gaza to kill Jews. It was full of weapons of mass destruction. They were going to be offloaded. And the Libyans said they gave us that information because they didn't want anybody killed. And that information, 2 intelligence agencies wouldn't do anything about it. Joanne shamed one of them into calling him a Mossad friend of his, and that ship disappeared within a couple of hours. So you were talking about the number of lives that we've been responsible for saving. Listen, these lives, the Libyans saved a whole bunch of lives. This was a huge ship full of weapons of mass
It
destruction.
came from Turkey, paid for by Alice Linahan.
So there's a lot to this, like I say, if you go to the
Thank you
power
again.
hour. Yeah, thank you guys,
Yeah.
really. It's amazing what they know and what they've done. Yes,
Yeah.
pray for them big time. And they, I was gonna say, they were on July 17th. If you wanna go back to the Power Hour shows, and you can hear them on the Power Hour way back on July 17th. And like I say, if you go there, the one that was on this morning, which is about 45 minutes, we got YouTubes of it, and also they have a 3-hour one that was all put together with their fact-finding mission and the history of so much stuff. They were held by Al-Qaeda, and 3 miracles, really miracles, that saved their lives when they came here. So it's amazing, and that's a $10 DVD, and it helps them out.
So the 9th were on Joyce Riley.
The 9th they're on
If you go to our
Joyce Riley.
site, you'll see.
Oh, Libyan War the Truth is their website.
.com.
Libyan War the Truth. .com, or they have the Facebook Libyan War the Truth. Okay, so now we got a couple more minutes, like very couple more.
We just go next week. So I haven't
Would you
refreshed the
rather? Oh, you want
numbers
to think
in a long
about it?
time.
Okay,
I
then I
haven't
tell you what. Maybe
thought about
you
it.
can come either the next week or the 13th. You know, the deal of it is because that's when Paul Taylor will be here. He is a homeless man, and he's trying to get out of the Greece situation that's going on. And then Richard Sheridan, who's had 10 years of looking into this, he is going to be helping to promote the event of exposing what's going on. And I know a lot of people, it's the truth. You know, tax dollars should be spent on this or not. Well, they're collecting the tax dollars from us right now, and it's not going to any good. It's going to, pockets of corruption. So we do know, so we want to expose that. Okay, so yes, sir. Tell me, Rick.
I'm homeless,
Are you
and
homeless?
I don't want any of their money. I just want them to leave my money alone.
Thank you very much. There you go. That's another thing, and that's really true. And the thing of it is I'm really a big proponent on, private sharing and charity. But they tax us to death that a lot of our money is taken, and we don't have that extra money because, like I say again, I was in the John Birch Society, and we believe that, taxation is ridiculous of what we're being taken away from us because American charity is the greatest in the whole world. We give better than everybody, and people are willing and wanting to do the right thing and to share with their brother. Like Ron Paul said, he got laughed off the stage when he was talking about churches and hospitals used to take care of people, but now the regulations, you're scared about malpractice and this and that. They got you going in common, and then the way our money is being taken and everything, we don't have that extra money a lot of times to put towards the good we'd like to have, where our money to go. So I agree with you, Rick. Okay, and Rick is great. He's an artist. He's always out at our protests. We're real big on supporting, like the Syria event when it was Do Not Bomb Syria. We were very involved there with signs and music. Music is the way to connect with people. And what is your?
Thank you.
Yes, of course. He's awesome.
I have a heavy metal band called Mr. Freak and the Freak Show Band. It's a little freaky, it's a little out there, but I mean, man, see the chemtrails in the sky all day today. Fluoride's in the water. They've depleted our nutrition from our food supply, our minerals from our food supply. They've taken away natural herbs and minerals. They've replaced it with psychotropic drugs. I mean, how many ways do I have to describe how they're killing us for it to be okay to be a little pissed off?
Yeah, so he gets
Smart meter reading.
and there's a and there's a whole
EMFs, we're being
smart
barraged by
meters,
electromagnetic
there's
frequencies.
electromagnetic frequencies. I know, and there's so many things. And John has something else?
Regina, I actually sent out a email to a bunch of people about the Fukushima debris hitting the California coast, which is a big issue. I have friends in California saying the readings are actually higher than they are reporting. And it's a real issue. And I was advising people, well, look, you can just go get tincture of iodine at the store and paint it on, a patch on your, somewhere where it's covered, and your body can absorb it through the skin, and you'll still get some iodine to protect your thyroid. I actually followed my advice, and I went to CVS to pick up a little bottle of tincture of iodine, and they're no longer available.
Oh.
But the Power Hour also, they sell good quality iodine, and they talk to you about that too. And if you Google her show, there's a discussion about all that also.
There is some form of iodine, something, I don't recall the entire name, but it's like a $15 big bottle, and it's got all these things about, don't use too much of it, or don't use it for more than 3 or 4 days. I mean, it's really weird.
Yeah, okay, well, go to the Power Hour, they'll help you there too. Okay, well now we're gonna bring our guest forward here. It's like 8:03, so it's kind of, and I've never met Alice in person, but I looked her up, and I noticed that she's a fighter, and it's Women on the Wall. Women on the Wall. Women on the Wall, and maybe you'll address what that group is a little bit too, because I would like to be more part of that. I liked a lot of the things that you're doing, and we want to know more about you. So we welcome you here today, and we're going to give you our attention. Okay, here you go. And I can take this computer off of here.
I had a friend of mine donate this great sign to us. He has a graphics company, and he's been wonderful. I actually traveled to the Republican National Convention with him. He used to own race cars. He sold all the race cars, kept the trailer, but had a graphic artist do a pictorial history of the Constitution, from the Constitution to 9/11. And we had 4 flats. But drove it to Tampa, and it was an incredible event. So,
look at there.
Can somebody tall give her a hand there? Can somebody give her a hand?
That's excellent.
Isn't that great?
Yes.
So, you might hear from people like Thomas Ratliff, the State Board of Education elected official, that I'm paid, and I'm not. There are just liberty-minded, great patriots who work together to fight this fight and do it on very little money.
It actually probably costs you money.
Right, exactly. So, before I leave tonight, I want to invite all of you to come up with me, and we'll take a picture in front of the sign. Social media is a really powerful tool that we have, and what people like Thomas Ratliff don't understand is that it's not about me, and it's not about one organization. What I see happening is a movement for truth. People are interested in the truth. And with Women on the Wall, Rebecca Forrest started it. She's the president of Women on the Wall, and I'm a board member. But we take on issues that matter to the safety and security of our children and the next generation. And we cover the issues, the topics, actually, of education, immigration, and national security, and how they all connect. And so we've done several projects together. We started out during, we were in the battle to try to stop Speaker Joe Strauss from being the Speaker of the House. And we produced some videos to expose the pledge card system of how they keep incumbents in office. Basically, in Texas, our House of Representatives pledge support to the Speaker 2 years in advance that they will support him without knowing if he'll get reelected even to office. But basically, they're putting their name on a list. I support you if all that funding that goes through the Speaker gets to the representatives for their reelection. So that's really when I got involved with Women on the Wall, is to expose that. I went to a meeting several months ago, actually it's probably been 6 to 8 months ago now, where we were talking about issues that mattered, that we felt like we could bring people in to be active who were not politically active, that have their head in the sand. And I had found out about C-Scope being implemented into 875 school districts and didn't really understand, and I kept telling Ginger Russell, who was trying to get me to push this information out, you know, I'm too busy, I've got too many other issues. I was really covering the Goulin schools, and I'll talk about them in a little while, the Harmony Science Centers. I can tell you all about them, but I didn't know about this whole C-Scope Common Core thing. Well, we were having a speaker showdown down in Austin to protest the speaker, and Ginger Russell came and spoke at our Keep Texas Strong rally. And I started going, wait a minute, this is big. This is something I need to look into. Well then, the group that was down at the Speaker Showdown from Frisco, the Frisco Tea Party, they really dove into it and had Janine McGregor come and speak to their group and ended up really diving into this issue. My other organization, it's not really an organization, it's me, but it's a website called Voices in Power, EMPOWER.com. And with Voices in Power, I go around and train grassroots folks, everyday folks, how to take information and to become the media in their local community and to share that information with their friends and neighbors. So that's what I do with Voices in Power. Well, when we started trying to organize with Voices in Power, we were setting up these communication teams across the state. And I was going into groups like yours, and we would help set up a communications team. On that communications team, and I recommend that you do this for your group, there's 4 key people. You have your communications director, who is your liaison with local campaigns, with the local media, kind of a communications liaison. Second person is your content director. That person is in charge of creating content, finding content, and connecting the dots when content goes from a national level to a state level to a local level. That person's in charge of making those connections.
Great website. You have a great website.
Thank you. Thank you. The third person is your rapid response director. And this, one of my, and it's kind of funny because I'm changing. Actually, I think as we get older we change. But I would consider myself, I used to consider myself as social conservative Republican Texas mom. That's how I would probably would have described myself. One of my dearest friends and mentors is actually a liberal Democrat who worked under Carter. And that is Pat Cadell. And it's kind of crazy that I know Pat Cadell and that we crossed paths, but he has been one of those people where we don't always agree. A lot of times we don't agree, but he's very smart and he's very strategic in politics and strategy and ground game. And So when, I don't know if you remember when Sheila Jackson Lee made her crazy comments that the Islamic extremists, or Christian militants were as dangerous as Islamic extremists. I was so mad, and I was trying to pat you down. I said, I am so pissed off, I can't believe that. Because, well, you stupid Republicans, conservatives, y'all don't know how to fight. He said if a Republican had said something as stupid as that, they would have already had a press conference, they would have 3,000 people behind them, they would make a huge deal out of it. And he goes, what do? You send each other an email. You don't know how to fight. You've got to learn how to fight. So I called my friend Anita Moncrief, who now lives in Houston. She was living in Maryland at the time. She was the Acorn whistleblower that really took down Acorn. And I said, Anita, Pat said we got to fight. You got to get to Houston and we got to have a press conference. And we got to hold Sheila Jackson Lee accountable. So she came in. We went into Harris County, got black pastors, and we had a press conference with Anita Moncrief and black pastors, and we Skyped in Alfonso Z. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a black rapper for PJ Media, and he had already done a spoof on Sheila Jackson Lee, and so he Skyped in. We got him in on this virtual team, and we created content, basically. So that rapid response director is in charge of taking situations like that and creating rapid response content. Now, that race, Sheila Jackson Lee, the Republican Party is not going to ever fight that battle because they think she's got it so bad. So no money is ever going to be spent there. So it takes local people creating their own content and then going and block walking and with their iPad saying, okay, you really support Sheila Jackson Lee? There's black pastors who are asking her to recant her position. So that's the power that we have at the very local level to make a difference. The last person in this communication team is your social media director. This is someone who makes sure that your group or organization, everyone who's in here, has, if they are on the computer, that they have a Facebook group, or Facebook and Twitter, and that they are pushing out the content that's being created by the group. It's the power of compounding activists. So how does this connect at all with Common Core and Cisco? We were setting up these communication teams across the state, and then we had this meeting and we said, okay, education is an issue that we really need to take on. So when I started connecting the dots with the strategies and the tactics of how Cisco was put into 875 districts across our state, the same strategies and tactics were used to put Common Core into 45 states across our country. So it's interesting when you start connecting dots and becoming entrenched in finding truth. People start sending you information. I know you guys know this. People start sending you all this information, and you start connecting the dots, and then if you have these communication teams set up, you can start activating people at the local level. And really that's what happened with Cisco, is these communication teams, we gave people a call to action to start having local community meetings and asking questions about Cisco. And when we started finding out the information and teachers started sending us information, it all started to make sense. So, what is Common Core? What is Cisco? How many people in here feel like you know what's going on with Common Core and Cisco? A little bit? Okay. Common Core is a set of national standards. But it's not really about these standards. Because it's not about a set of standards, it's about a philosophy, a way that teachers are being trained to teach today. That's completely different than how teachers were teaching before. And this is not a Republican versus Democrat thing. This is a big government, progressives versus the people thing. Because when you look at how this was implemented, you've got Jeb Bush and Mike Huckabee and Bill Bennett who are pushing for national standards on the Republican side. And then you've got Obama and Arne Duncan and Kathleen Sebelius and all these folks on the Democrat side. That's troubling when they're working together. So I'd rather them be fighting. So what happened is Common Core was implemented, and it's a set of standards, and the copyright for this set of standards it is owned by the National Governors Association. And that's how they marketed it as state-led. The National Governors Association is not state-led. It's a think tank out of Washington, D.C. that all the governors are a part of this association. And it's interesting when you hear Bill Bennett talk about it, he talks about the DOE, Department of Education, and how there needed to be this set of standards. So if a child was moving from state to state, he would be in the same place. My question is for Bill Bennett, whatever happened to federalism and states' rights? And what does the federal government have to, why are they dictating to our state what should be taught? And I don't care if, Bill Bennett, you think that it's all about curriculum, character, and choice, things that sound good because you're a conservative, and if we let you in and it just so happens that another governor who was a lead in the Governors Association at the time was Kathleen Sebelius, I don't want the federal government in control of a set of standards. Oh, and by the way, that's against the law. And so people need to understand that this is not a Republican versus Democrat thing. It's interesting to note that the Governors Association owns the copyright to this set of standards. Well, C-Scope was implemented in the 875 districts. Our legislators didn't know about it here in Texas. And it's funny because the same strategy and tactic was used, because C-Scope is a curriculum management system that has lessons and a scope and sequence to keep the teachers on task, and then assessments at the end. The copyright for C-Scope is held by the 20 education service centers. We have 20 education service centers across our state that service our districts, that get money from the TEA to service our districts. They set up to where the 20 directors of the ESCs formed a nonprofit, and they hold the copyright to C-Scope. And so what happened is Ginger Russell, her mother, was tutoring kids in the afternoon. And she asked the kids, well, let me see your textbook so I can help you with your lesson. And the kids said, we don't have a textbook. Our class uses C-Scope. And she was like, oh, C-Scope, what's this? So she went up to the school to try try to get access so she could tutor the kids. And they said, oh, there's a copyright, you can't see it. So she called Barbara Cargill, who's the chairman of the State Board of Education, and Barbara Cargill tried to get access to it, and Barbara Cargill didn't have access to it for 6 months. Now, why is a organization that has a copyright able to reach our children with curriculum that parents don't have a right to see? Yes.
I understand that Common Core is not in Texas.
Well, and I'll talk about that in just a second. So you have Common Core National. It was implemented using the strategy of a nonprofit organization owning the copyright. You've got C-Scope put into Texas. Same strategy, a nonprofit organization that owns the copyright. Here's where it gets interesting. Back in 2009 with the stimulus package, all 50 states took money in that stimulus package for education. That money went to the TEA to set up the database system, a longitudinal database system, to be able to capture data on students and teachers. And Texas took 18.5 million, something like that, to update our longitudinal database systems. Then, in 2010, they started this Race to the Top program with Common Core, this set of standards. And basically, states would apply for this Race to the Top money, but if you applied for this money, took this federal money, you had to adhere to these Common Core standards. Thankfully, former Chairman of Education Robert Scott and Governor Perry said no to that federal money because they said it would pay for a couple of days, basically, and we're not going to take that money. So they took the stimulus money to set up the database system. They didn't take the Common Core Race to the Top money. So now we've got this illusion that we don't have Common Core in Texas. But remember I said it's not about a set of standards. It's about a philosophy, a way of teaching that teachers are being trained to teach. And Donna Garner has been writing extensively about education for years, and she has been uncovering all of this. And she's been warning our legislators about this. And she was saying Common Core is coming in the back door. She says, and this is how it's easiest for me to understand all of this. There are basically two types of education, two philosophies of education. You have what she calls type 1, traditional foundational, where one concept builds on the next. In math, you have addition, subtraction, multiplication. You start from the foundation and you build up. That's what our education, traditional education, has always been. Now the tax, that was not your traditional, it was a type 2, which is outcome-based education, where it's more collectivist. Let's bring the children together to subjectively decide what the right answer is. Now, I say that not all project-based learning is bad, but if you just have the subjective collectivist without having the foundation, that's where you're able to get in an agenda. And so Common Core and C-Scope is all this type 2 philosophy of education. There was a movement to take the Texas TEKS, our standards, that TEKS stands for Texas Essential Knowledge and Learning, our TEKS, to move it to that, away from the tax,
and the type 2 to a traditional foundational philosophy. So our Texas TEEPs are your traditional foundational philosophy. And they're worth fighting for because they are the best in the nation, especially because everyone else has signed on to the Common Core. But what has happened is you have this group that was put together to start this college and career ready set of standards. And they market it that not every kiddo is going to be, going to go to college. We need to have vocational learning so that our kids that aren't going to go down that path will have the opportunity to do that. The problem with that is, why should even the state government be telling local districts, local school districts, how they should set up their schools? Now, you do want a set of standards, which are your basics, your reading, your writing, your math. You want to give all kids that foundation and then let them be free to choose. Donna Garner kept saying, don't pass HB 5, which just passed in this legislative session. Because she said, if you pass HB 5, you're basically handing over Common Core in the state of Texas. But they don't call it Common Core. They call it College and Career Ready. And what they have done is now our public school systems have to have 5 pathways to graduation. But here's the kicker, that may sound good, but now all these public schools that are struggling financially, who couldn't pay for curriculum directors before, how are they going to come up with the cost, the money to pay for all these new career paths? And those career paths are not by choice. Those career paths are set when a child at the end of their 8th grade year. And they're determined by the assessments. And so it's not freedom to choose a vocational pathway.
Back in the USSR.
Yes.
He just said USSR.
That's what it is. That's what it is. So you ask if Common Core is in Texas? Yes. They just call it College and Career Ready. Yes. And it's interesting because you have all these people pushing school choice, school choice, school choice. School choice needs to be defined. Needs to be defined. As a mother, I do want the choice to whatever's in my local community. If it's a public school, if I want a homeschool, if it's a private school, if it's a charter co-op, if it's a charter school, whatever.
But then how are you going to homeschool and still pay the taxes?
Well, you're right, exactly. Well, but that's why we need to have these conversations, because it can't be just a push for school choice. And school choice has become no choice, because every curriculum product out there is aligned with the Common Core philosophy of education.
I have just one quick question. If you could address 2 things, and that's, if you're a teacher, you know what these are, but it's called values clarification. Do you know what that is?
No.
Okay. I would suggest that you study, because this has been going on for 100 years.
You're right.
And it's not anything new. And
right.
the other thing is situation ethics. It's been taught, this is no different than Common Core. It was more clandestine, it was harder for parents to see, now it's out in the open. They weren't looking at the textbooks anyway, I can tell you, they never looked at the text. I've never had, actually I was told Virginia 15 years, but 17 years teaching. I've never had a parent asked to see a textbook. So they would, it wouldn't matter if you were teaching them what Mother Teresa said, or
You're exactly right.
what Adolf Hitler said. It doesn't matter, because they're not listening anyway. And they don't even know that the taxation is robbery against their private property. So why are we fighting this battle?
Well, I think you're exactly right. And because we've been so indoctrinated ourselves as a culture to believe all of this, part of our whole campaign is Can I See? We need parents to actually go into the classroom and say three things. Can I see what you're teaching my child? Can I see how you're teaching my child? And the third, can I see who's financially benefiting from the curriculum product that my child's teacher is being evaluated on?
And they're gonna like
That's
that.
the bottom line.
They're gonna respond to that.
That's the bottom line. Because teachers are the ones who are being completely marginalized in all of this, along with parents.
Well, they always have.
Right.
I mean, it's
But-
nothing new.
No, you're right. But if you were in school 50 years ago,
No, 50 years ago, I was in school, we had new math, we had government clarification, and we had situation ethics. What is situation ethics? Remember the story, everybody read it, there's a boat, and then everybody's out at sea,
Right.
and you've got to decide who
you
dies.
guys, yeah,
That was taught 80 years ago.
right. Have you ever heard of Dr. Peg Lussick?
No.
She has a video, and you're exactly right, because she talks about this, that this was the battle. This battle has been going on for years and years. Charlotte Iserby.
Yeah, Charlotte
It talks about it. Charlotte Iserby, I was on a radio show with her, and I mean, the light bulb went off for me when she was talking, because she said, look, you would think that I would be saying, be against the public schools with all of this being taught in the public schools. She said, but do you realize if we allow them to, and I think there are forces that want to, collapse the public school system, we have handed it all over. Because what's the difference? In a charter school, in a private school, they're all run by appointed boards. And those appointed boards are beholden to whoever's giving the grant money. So if it's coming from the state, if it's coming from grant money from the UN, if it's coming from grant money from Microsoft, all of those, we've handed it over. The beauty of our local public school system is our locally elected school boards.
But the problem is it doesn't address the taxation issue. Even if you take out the whole thing, and I see that you're interested in the Constitution. Well, the Constitution makes no provision for public schools. So why, I mean, and even if you have public schools, you have a Muslim here, a Christian here, who do they decide gets to pray? I mean, until you put it in the hands of the private sector, you're always going to have this problem. And so why should we, the property owners, be the ones that are funding this? And nobody's asking that question. They're just talking about the outrage. We need to see what's in the books. We need to see this and that. Why not?
Well, I don't know that we can get to that point, because I do think that's the next.
But you ask all these people that are out there working really hard, as Dennis Chindick said, where you're working hard, but who are you working for? They want you to be outraged. While they have Margaret Sanger Elementary School. And that's an 80-year-old school.
And that's part of this whole process, I think, that it is getting so bad and it is so in our face.
But they want you to be outraged while they continue to tax you, and the hundreds or thousands of people you're speaking to don't even know that property tax is unconstitutional, illegal, and unlawful.
Well, but I think, and I agree with you, but I don't know that we can get to that point.
But it's not getting to that point because it's just talk. While every year, on the 31st of this month, everybody's going to write the property tax bill, and they're just going to continue to scream and be outraged and not ever look at their children's books anyway. They may go
I
down
don't
there
know.
and house.
I think that what we're seeing across the country and here in Texas is that parents are starting to ask questions. There's a lot of parents who can keep their head in the sand when it comes to the budget, the toll roads, the whatever, the issues are, immigration. Until it affects them personally, they're not going to be able to.
Okay,
But
if you
what's
take
happening, well, see,
Go ahead.
Eve, let's
I'm sorry, go ahead.
let's let,
Yeah, her finish her
and Jimmy, you finish what you're saying, and then we'll have Jimmy interject.
what's happening is the ramifications of these Common Core standards and the testing and the assessments. Kids are it is so developmentally inappropriate what is happening to our children. That instinct of a mother to protect her child.
But that's
It's
It's motivated.
It's
motivated.
motivated.
And then we can get to other levels, but Jimmy has something to say.
Yes, go ahead, Jimmy.
You can't swallow an elephant, but you can eat them a bite at a time. Now, the United States has been going through this growing government, and all the abuses of that hypocrisy that's going on in Washington, D.C. is finally striking home. And people are seeing the devaluation of their currency, of their homes, everything is costing more money, and the demand for more taxes, et cetera. I think ultimately we're going to have to defund Washington, D.C. But you can't do that off the bat. You got to eat this elephant a bite at a time. And so you start off kids, and the education of our children is real important to all of us. And when we see what's happening, and when they hide this information from us, then that pisses all of us off. And the teachers are not allowed to discuss this curriculum for fear of being fired. Now that's something really nasty. So, you know, this is where you can talk to people and paint me. He said, be one, reach one, be one, teach
Each one, reach one. Each
Okay.
one, teach one.
And that's true. And so, you know, we all have to do it one at a time. There's a huge problem, and you're not cured overnight.
No.
But you have to get started. And this mess with the curriculum for our kids is an absolute atrocity. It's an abomination. It's illegal. And, you know, we should be storming the gates.
Well, and it gets people to the point of maybe where then what Eva says, because
Right.
it's two different things. It's not like we disagree with what Eva's saying,
No.
and neither do I. But
Right.
that's not the topic of the moment, you know, and that's
No, I
a topic
understand.
for
I
another day.
understand.
And also too,
I believe it's a greater goal than.
it's a great
Right.
goal.
You're
It's
right.
just like so many things, like us fluoride in the water.
step at a
But then
time.
it's to get people motivated, and that's why
Well,
And the problem is that mothers don't know this.
Right, they
I didn't
They're
know.
waking up.
But they're waking up. I can tell you, I'm
building
waking up.
7. She's building 7. And it's getting to 9/11 sitting over there.
I-
But you can't sometimes make believe.
And,
so.
and I have a strong faith in the fact that who didn't know any of this,
I was the same way.
I had no clue who Margaret Sanger was. And when Obama was running originally, I just had this fear, a sense of fear. And I'm Catholic, and so I started looking into and researching who this person was. And I was actually a real estate agent, part-time, a mom, I have 3 children, a husband. We kept moving around, and so I started a real estate blog, and I started following and posting information that I was finding out about the connections between Obama and his mentors being excommunicated Jesuit priests. And I started writing about the progressive infiltration into the Catholic Church and having my own crisis of faith because I'm a Catholic. And that's not what I was taught. And I had all these people attacking me as a mother. I had all these people attacking me, and it forced me to go do more research because these were people who were sometimes my family questioning me, and why was I writing this on my real estate blog? And I said, well, that's the only place I have to write it. And people started following me. I had someone in my office set up where it automatically went to my Facebook and Twitter. And then I started getting the following, and people, when I would get attacked by people, I had this network of people defending me.
That's awesome.
And that is where I think God's putting this network together of people who for me to sit up till 4 o'clock in the morning doing research on who Margaret Sanger was, and you know what tipped me off on all of this? I was watching, and I don't even know how I found it. You know how you get on the internet and you just start going to all these different places? It was an old interview with Mike Wallace and Margaret Sanger. And it was funny because the commercials were all Camel cigarette. Remember. But she was talking about why she started Planned Parenthood. And it was eugenics. And I was going, oh my goodness. And then I saw videos of Hillary Clinton.
Same thing.
And that, so I think that is what's happening.
That era, everybody was for eugenics.
Right.
From late 19th, early 20th century,
Right.
everybody, no matter where they were on the spectrum, was for eugenics.
You're right. And see, as someone who grew up and went to school, I graduated from high school in '86. I didn't learn any of
I
this.
did, because I was Catholic too, and I went to Episcopal school. And my
Uh-huh.
teacher said, we need to have abortion. She told us in the 5th grade. That in our weekly readers in 1966 said why we need population control. It was all about population control. And she taught us all about why we needed abortion. 5th grade.
But that goes to show.
So it's been going on.
It's been going on, but we've had our head in the sand. And I think that we're in a time when people are fearful, and instead of coming at it from a fearful rage, if you will, coming at it with a fear that initiates action. And to me, that's where I want people to start going in and saying, can I see? Because I think if they go in and say, can I see, they'll be appalled.
There you go.
They'll be appalled, but then we've got to give them action.
But I
to
think
take.
20% of the population probably believes in abortion. So let them have their public schools.
We're not talking about abortion.
No,
Yeah.
but I mean,
But
Margaret's saying.
those are the ways. I think that there are solutions, and knowledge is power. Knowledge is power, and different people are going to take that information. And what we're trying to do with Women on the Wall is to create avenues to train people to create their own content to share with their friends and neighbors. We used to have these conversations on our front porch. Now people don't have conversations.
Years ago, the Guggenheim Foundation, you may know this, funded a group of educators to create the system they called then outcome-based education. And there's a book by that title that everybody should read that was written by an Oregon legislator. They threw it out of Oregon. Other states have been throwing it out, but they bring it back in under different names, like you were talking about here in Texas. The bottom line is to eliminate creative thinking and to create little drone bees to fit in slots.
You're right.
And to divide and separate children from the family and from family values.
You're exactly right.
In other words, to destroy our society.
And religion, keep them fighting.
Absolutely.
Races, keep them fighting. Democrats and Republicans, keep
Factions
them
in every
fighting.
direction.
Keep everybody confused so that nobody figures out what's going on behind the scenes.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
We are
I am hearing things regarding this, like 2 + 2 = 5. But I think the one thing you haven't spoken to yet that I'd really like to hear you speak to, can you give some examples of the most egregious things going on with this?
Well, and it goes to what you're saying. If everything is subjective, and they have the opportunity to put in their agenda, they've basically taken the hearts and souls of our children. And so when we were in, we had a community meeting in Argyle, and we had the principal pull up a live C-scope lesson. Now the lesson was supposed to be about the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. So that superintendent and that teacher can mark off, we covered those teaks. Just mark it off, we covered it. Well, how did they teach it? Well, the lesson that the teacher was given was actually a Time magazine article to send the kids to that goes all into the Arab Spring in Libya and basically describes the Arab Spring as a democratic process.
They're using that word incorrectly.
Yes. And then you have the assessment. Now, it's interesting, I went to, there was a conference in Grapevine 3 weeks ago, a national conference called Learning Forward. There were curriculum directors from all over the state that were there. I actually know some of them. Went to college with some of them. And so I went up to the Gaylord and had dinner. And got into some really heated debates with these people who are curriculum directors who have bought into all of this propaganda. And it's interesting because one of the morning speakers was Linda Darling Hammond, and I'll talk about her in a minute. The other speaker that evening was a guy named Pedro, who is from Berkeley. He was a former director of the Institute for Social Change. They actually, these teachers called themselves change agents, which Charlotte Iserby has been talking about for years. And I was going, oh my goodness. And so I had this heated debate with this friend of mine. She told me I was crazy. I told her she was crazy, and we hugged because we do love each other. And then we walk out, and there's her curriculum team, and she's going, oh, I have to introduce Alice. I don't know what she's going to say to these people. And I was very good. I kept my mouth shut. But this one girl said, oh, Pedro was so inspiring. He just empowered us as teachers to be the advocates for our students, even when their parents didn't approve of what we were teaching. And I looked at my friend, and I was like, and I'm the crazy one. It's interesting because I tell the story. Do y'all know who Brandon Darby is? You need to, he would be a great speaker, by the way. Brandon Darby grew up in Beaumont, or not, but outside of Houston area. Made his way to Austin as kind of a teen, and got involved in the far left progressives on the ground, the Black Panther folks. And he was running in some pretty interesting circles, and when Katrina happened, he went to save a Black Panther friend of his in New Orleans in the 9th Ward, saved him. And Brandon has a great heart, and he was there doing what he was doing because he thought that's who loved people and helped people and was doing the right thing. Well, he started opening up these soup kitchens and missions for people in New Orleans, and started getting all this money in from the Michael Moores of the world, and they were sending these young college, kids to come in and do the soup kitchens and everything. And then they protested. They wouldn't feed the homeless or the people starving because they were vegans and they were serving meat. So Brandon starts going, okay, wait a minute. So you're going to let these people die because of how you eat? So he started questioning things. And his story is amazing. He ended up, this group of people that he was running with was planning to bomb the Republican National Convention. And it just so happens that Brandon had become friends with an FBI guy and became an informant to the FBI, and exposed how they were organizing to do this. And I actually was on tour with Brandon in Florida 2 years ago, I guess, and we were at Presidency 5, which is like the Republican state convention here. in Florida, and Brandon just had this kind of white face, and and I said, Brandon, what's wrong? And he goes, these are the people that they were gonna kill. And he stopped it. But what's interesting to me is how they were organizing people. And they organized them into 3 different groups: the green group, the yellow group, and the red group. The green group were good, honest Democrats who they organized to go to the Republican National Convention and just hold up picket signs, protest signs. They weren't bad people. They had voted Democrat all their life, whatever. So they were holding protest signs. Then the second group was the yellow group. They were a little more radical, a little more in the know, and they were organized to lock arm in arm with PVC pipe to hold back the police. The green group didn't know about the yellow group. Then you have the red group. They're the ones that would actually throw the Molotov cocktail or throw the bomb. They were the ones organizing it all. What does this have to do with Common Core and Cisco? I was at a Region 11 Service Center meeting with a group of grassroots Tea Party folks, and we were asking questions, and they were trying to tell us how great Cisco was. That it was, teachers were begging for it because they needed this curriculum management system, and the district couldn't afford to pay for curriculum directors. And I looked at Dr. Stillman and I said, I want to tell you a story. And I told him Brandon's story about the green, yellow, and red people. And I said, look, Dr. Stillman, I don't think you're a bad guy. I said, you're from Munster, Texas. I don't think you're a communist and a Marxist and a whateverist, you know, that we can call it. I don't think you're trying to harm my children. But I think you're green. I think you're being used because you are financially tied to selling or renting a flawed curriculum management system to my child's district that will harm my child. I don't think you're intentionally doing it, but I think you're green. I think there are people like the Ratliff family, Thomas Ratliff, who has now filed 2 ethics charges against me because he says with the work that we're doing with Can I See, that I should be registered as a paid lobbyist. What he doesn't understand is it's not about me, it's about a movement of moms and dads and grandparents and taxpayers going in and saying, can I see what you're using my tax dollars for? The Ratliff family, Bill Ratliff is Thomas Ratliff's dad. He's a former lieutenant governor of the state of Texas, a former state senator. This has all been in the works for a long time. And when we say local control to me means moms and dads and teachers and principals deciding what's going on in the school along with the school board, not the education service centers and superintendents. Because superintendents want to retire with full benefits and then go become consultants for these education curriculum products and for the ESC and TASA and TASB. So the Ratliff family, Bill Ratliff, put through legislation SB1, I think it was 2 or 3 sessions ago, which basically took the power away from the local school board. Their role now is just to basically fund or not fund anything. All the major decisions are made by the superintendent. And the training for the school board is through Texas Association of School Boards that has access to our tax dollars because our tax dollars pay for these school board members to be a part of these associations where they're sent to training, where they teach them how to lobby and how to go against us. Our tax dollars are being used against us. The superintendents go to training by TASA, Texas Association of School Administrators. The Texas Association of School Administrators, TASA, has a new Texas vision for education that all of these school districts have signed on to. You're right.
It's always been there.
Yeah, but no one's ever been willing to expose the corruption and stop these people.
But you can't because you've willingly given your rights away when you
Well,
write your property tax check.
Let me tell you what we're doing. This is amazing. Frisco ISD, or not Frisco ISD, Frisco Tea Party, that group that got impassioned about what was going on with Cisco. We started a virtual online team that would do public information requests, asking for the amount of money that we're spending on Cisco and on TASA and TASB. That information was put into 2 white papers. We had an education summit with Montgomery County Tea Party in Conroe, and I had called Senator Dan Patrick's office and said, you might want to send someone from your office because we're going to be presenting some financial information I think that y'all need to know. And of course he's running for lieutenant governor, so he said, well, I'll be there myself. And so then we called the lieutenant governor, his office, and said, well, you might want to send someone to this meeting because Dan Patrick's going to be there himself. So David Dewar said, well, I'm going to be there myself too. So Tom Fabry presented these 2 white papers and the hundreds of millions of dollars in his presentation to show how much money is up in this bureaucracy and not getting to the teacher. And I was telling Meryl Hook, my friend, when we were leaving, I said, either they're going, oh shit, they know, or they're going, this is really bad. But we've called them on it, that it's out there publicly. Well, I can tell you that David Dewhurst left there and got on the phone and called the state auditor and filed or requested that he file a charter to do a full audit. Now, where that goes depends on what we do. If we keep pressuring and keep exposing. There's a reason why Thomas Ratliff wants to shut me up. And I told the media and the people that he's working with, I said, if you want to follow this case on Twitter, follow the hashtag impeach Ratliff and the other hashtag bring it on. Wow. And he didn't like it because on Voices in Power, we started a website called impeachratliff.com. Because if we can start taking these people out and exposing the corruption, yes, it's bad at the national level. Yes, it's bad in Austin. But like I told a principal who told me, I hate politics, I hate these politicians, I hate these people, I don't want to go to Austin. I said, well, that's fine. But your whole world is being controlled by what happens in Austin. Until you start getting engaged and helping to expose the corruption, it can't ever stop. And there's never been a time in my lifetime where this has been so in our face. I think it's our time to fight.
Look at what they did in Colorado. They absolutely stood up and they got those guys resigning and hiding in their rat hole.
Exactly.
So it can be done. Northeastern corner of Colorado is holding back $9.8 billion of funding to Denver because they couldn't even get a road fixed. So, you know, Northern California, they're trying to secede. Now then there's Northern New York is trying to secede. A lot of people are pissed off.
They are, and we should be. And you know what's interesting? Like I said earlier, I had always considered myself a social conservative Republican mom, whatever. That was my label. When I went to the Republican National Convention, I had worked, I was on the leadership team here in Texas for Rick Santorum's campaign. And I knew what was going on the ground during the primary with these different campaigns. And when they, during the Republican National Convention, went to change the rules,
Yeah.
Remember that?
I was sitting in a viewing of Hope and Change, which is a movie that was produced by Steve Bannon with Breitbart and Pat Caddell. And basically what they did is they did a documentary of people who had voted for Obama the first time, and they documented if their life were improved or where they were at as if they were going to vote for him again. And it was just a fascinating video. And as I'm watching that video, I'm looking at my phone just blowing up. And it's all these people who are on the floor and they were trying to change the rules. And I looked at Pat Caddell and I said, I am so sick to my stomach because I'm sitting here watching a video of how these Democrats were completely snowed by Obama. And right now, Republicans across this nation are being completely snowed because they don't realize that their state rights are being taken away. That was one of the biggest mistakes I think that Romney and the Republican Party could have ever done, because never in a time was there an opportunity for a coalition to be built between conservative Republicans and libertarians. And it happened at that very moment. That very moment.
She was there.
So, and I've been speaking across the state. I was in Washington speaking with a group. I think that we are in a time where it's no longer about Republicans and Democrats, because the Republicans and Democrats are against the people. It's about the people.
That's right.
You're absolutely right.
You're right. Presidential candidate signed the Bill of Rights Accords except for Ron Paul. So you have to throw all those in the garbage can. So you can't cure it in Washington, D.C. That doesn't need to be driven off in the river. You have to start here.
And someone very wise told me, he said, and we're not going to be able to take all of these people out of office either. But what we can do is be so powerful as the grassroots that we make them, we're just as powerful as the money that they're getting. Because what do they spend their money on? PR and propaganda. You're right. You're exactly right. And I have to say, one of the people that, it's funny because I was asked to go to meet with David Dewars, and I was like, no way. I have to say, he came to an event in Burleson 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, over there.
Were y'all in Burleson? Now, not in Kaufman. This was a different one.
Okay.
This was in Burleson. And I was doing a whole presentation on Common Core and Cisco and the big picture. And he didn't do what normal elected officials do. He didn't come in with his entourage and his security people and leave. He sat there from 7 to 10 and listened to the whole thing and took notes and asked questions. So I knew he was listening. Because some of these elected officials, and I don't know, we never know. I don't know for sure if he was just doing it for a ploy. I do know that Dan Patrick is really screwing things up. Even with this, he filed this letter to the AG to get a ruling on the Common Core lesson, Common Core law, that they passed a law that said you can't have Common Core standards in Texas. Again, he's not seeing the big picture. It's not about a set of standards, because that law said nothing about curriculum. And just like Thomas Ratliff, that law that he passed or that law that he passed has no remedy. There's no teeth to it because there's no penalties for it. So just like Thomas Ratliff is on the State Board of Education as an elected official and a paid lobbyist for Microsoft, the AG, the Attorney General, ruled that by law you can't be on the State Board of Education and be a paid lobbyist, but there's no remedy to take him out, so he just stays illegally. So this law has been passed, and so there are politicians. I have 4 to choose from for Lieutenant Governor. The only one that I see listening, and the only one who's opened his staff's door to where I can call and say, you know, what is going on here? For instance, I called and said, do you realize that they're collecting all this data because you passed another bill, HB 2103, and it was because I was in this national group of moms who are doing all this research. They kept talking about these P20s. And I said, well, we don't have a P20 in Texas because, you know, we don't have Common Core. So I Googled P20. Sure enough, they were in the middle of passing a piece of legislation that was written by Villarreal and Zeliger that sets up a P20 basically. And what they're doing is they're doing these laws in all 50 states. P20 stands for preschool through master's degree. And in the name of education research, this entity that is put together has the ability to set up 3 research centers that have access to our students and our teachers' personal data without consent. Because 2009 they did the stimulus package, 2010 they did the race to the top, 2011 Obama changed the regulations on the FERPA law, which is like the HIPAA law for healthcare. The FERPA law is our children's privacy. That in the name of education research, these third-party entities have access to this data without parental consent. Wow. So I called Dewhurst's office and I'm like, what is this? And he didn't know about it. And it was passed unanimously. And that's what happens is these guys get down there and they're marketed and lobbied and sold a bill of goods. They all pass it and they don't even know what's in it. And so when I sent that to him and I'm like, what's going on? He started making calls. He called Michael Williams. He started calling. Well, thankfully, Texas said no to a company called InBloom. Microsoft put $100 million into a company called InBloom that collects data from these 2 assessment consortiums, PARC and Smarter Balance. And so they're collecting all this data. InBloom is collecting the data from these research centers. So Texas said no, and David Dewhurst, to his credit, has been working behind the scenes to make sure that there's not a breach, and he said, look, Alice, I didn't know about this until you brought it to my attention. So not all, and he's a dad, and I told him, I said, I could really care less about your political career. I just want elected officials who govern like pissed off dads. Because if you're a dad and you realize what's happening, and by the way, Common Core, this whole philosophy of education, it's the way that they're training teachers to teach.
But it's not just today. It's always
been that way. But I also think I think it goes back to our education, our training at the university level and how they're training teachers to teach.
But it's
There's
always
no
been that way.
accountability, that's the problem. There's no accountability at any point. not any of the teachers, not any of the supervisors, not any of the politicians. And until there's accountability, then all these people get away with murder and everybody pays for it.
Well,
There has to be some kind of accountability.
And I do think that the accountability comes with massive organization of
Or guarantee.
Yes.
Accountability does not
Yeah.
come with government, though. I mean, government pretty much runs everything by default.
Right.
I very much appreciate your time and your sincerity. I appreciate what you're doing. But I encourage you that your end goal would be to, separate government from our individual lives.
Well, and part of my learning process comes from going to groups and speaking. I'm not the expert, I'm just the pissed off mom.
That's right.
And
I understand that.
And we see that happening right now, so that's total awesome.
That's good. One of the people that who has really opened my eyes to federalism is Dwayne Stovall. And I highly recommend, if you don't know who Dwayne is, he's running and he is, we need to take Cornyn out of office. And Dwayne comes from that mindset, exactly.
So like, and like
Sometimes
he
you gotta
says,
flip burgers before you can run your business,
yeah.
You gotta work your
But
way
like
there.
he says, if it's been going on all this time, nobody stopped it. So this is an
Well,
opportunity.
it's like Charlotte Iserby says, you're not gonna stop it, but you can push it back, you can push it back.
Or defund it, which is
Or
what
defund
he's
it.
saying.
Yeah.
And that's where you have to have an educated populace that's gonna push that.
You don't even
Yeah.
need much education, you just need to have a public that is not screaming about all these horrible things they're doing in the schools, but they're following the agenda that was set up 120 years ago. It's no different than my 5th grade teacher saying, we need to have abortions. There's no difference. And that was 40, 50 years ago.
But nobody stopped it till now, though. If it's been going on, maybe this is an idea
she
of
believes.
exposing atrocities to get people impassioned to ask questions, to then here the answer is we need to defund it, and we need to have a local, involvement.
This is so much in your face.
Well, I've got to disagree with Eve. Actually, there was a point in my education, one particular year, where they brought in a new math, and all the classes changed about that time. That was during the 60s sometime. And you can't say it was always there.
Well,
And even-
and I'll tell you right now what's happening with the fuzzy math is Dr. Kathy Steele from the Dana Center in Austin. All these curriculum directors and teachers are going to training, and if you look at her PowerPoint presentation that's online, just Google Dr. Kathy Steele, she's talking about teaching democracy in a math class. Well, that's not going to cut it. I want my child to learn that 2 + 2 is 4.
But new math was in the 60s.
Right.
50s, we had it in the 50s.
You had it in the 50s,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but it's that traditional foundational, and it's going to go back and forth.
But I think you're misled about the traditional education, because the traditional
Well, it's more
education
passive.
is Dewey. It is Darwin, social Darwinism. It was started by that. That is traditional.
I also
Well-
think what's happening.
May I make a comment?
What's happening on the ground is you have these groups of moms who are homeschooling. There's a woman named Kathy Wells out of Decatur. I have learned more from Kathy Wells about classical education and who Dewey is. I didn't know any of that. I didn't know who
But
Dewey
classical
was.
education is different than traditional.
Exactly.
But
And that's
they don't
what
teach
Kathy-
classical education in
Right.
public schools, and they can't.
Right, exactly. And so but as a mom, I didn't know any of that until I started asking questions and listening. A lot of it is listening.
I think one of the most important things that you have pointed out is your effort to spread this from community to community. And I would suggest it ought to also go interstate, like the group in Colorado that had so much success. Your group needs to be in touch with them and
We are.
share the pluses and the minuses of what you've learned. It's like Kennesaw, Georgia, back in the 70s, passed an ordinance requiring every home to have a firearm. Well, within about 2 years, crime went down 72% in Kennesaw and has remained there. And I called the secretary of the city manager and talked to her for about a half an hour on this. They have had calls from all over the world congratulating them and wanting counseling on the wording of their statutes and so forth. And the towns around Georgia have been calling in, sending people over. This needs to be a national movement. And if we do that big enough, we could do what Iceland did, even though Iceland's real small. They got real angry at the money problem, and they threw all the bankers out. They started prosecuting all the bankers criminally and threw all the politicians out and held elections and elected an entirely new government.
Well, let me, to your point, and I'll pass this around, if you will give me your name and email, every Wednesday night, we have a conference call where we're bringing people in from all across the country. That's how I'm finding out a lot of it. That's how I found out about the P20, was a group of moms out of Oregon and a mom, Jenny White, out of Oklahoma. So that, exactly what you're saying is happening. And if you will give me your email, you can join us on our Wednesday night calls. If you can't come on Wednesday night, I archive all of our calls so you can listen to them. I'm scheduled to go to South Carolina for the National South Carolina Convention, January 18th, 19th, and 20th. And we have a breakout session, 3-hour breakout session. We're doing exactly what we're talking about, setting up these communication teams. And I think you're right. If we break it down to the local level, have local people creating content and exposing what's going on in their local community, and then you have a statewide network of people, and that's what we have on our Wednesday night calls, and then your network from state to state. In Tennessee, they did a lot of work in the review process of the curriculum, and they documented all of these curriculum products to show what's come from our outcome-based education and what they are. And there's a guy out of San Antonio that's taking that Tennessee model and not reinventing the wheel, but connecting with Tennessee and then preparing to do that for our social studies review panels and our math review panels. So I think you're exactly right.
I would admonish you to endeavor to be a belligerent claimant of your rights. And what I'm saying here is David Dewhurst needs you. You do not need him. He wants something from you.
One last question.
Do not presume with any politician that they are really on your side or that you can trust them.
Right.
You
You're
lead,
exactly right.
you lead and they will follow.
Right.
That's good.
Okay, Marjorie, a quick one, and then we'll anybody else that would like to talk to Alice, I'm sure she'll talk to you one-on-one.
Quickly, just as, well, Common Core originated from Bill Gates Foundation, and you pointed out correctly that there's both donkey and elephant components of it. Likewise, the opposition to it is very diverse across the board. The mainstream media say, oh, it's just Tea Party. No. I know personally of communists who are against Common Core. Seriously. Everybody, anybody who's not standing to profit from Common Core, is, once they find out about it, is against it.
You're exactly right.
How do you spell that C-scope?
It's capital C and then SCOPE, and it's not an acronym for anything. And it's 3 components. It's a scope and sequence, which is a management system for the teachers, and then there's assessments at the end, and there's lessons in the middle. You'll hear that C-scope is gone in Texas because Dan Patrick cut a deal basically with the education service centers where they would take out the lessons. They didn't care about the lessons. What they were more interested in is having the system in place, the scope and sequence to control the teachers, and the assessments at the end. The assessments aren't to assess the kids. They're to assess the teachers if the teachers are teaching in this way. And I was told by a curriculum director that C-scope was put into Texas to weed out veteran teachers.
It was designed by a politician.
Well, thank you,
So,
thank you, thank you.
And if anyone will come take a picture with.
Oh, we forgot about that. She wants the picture. She wants to see her. Okay, she wants the picture. You don't know if you get a picture?
Thank you.
Let's make room. Oh my gosh, let's get around here for a sign here. And don't forget, there's lots of DVDs over here for $5.
Yes, and if you want us to
Come on,
pull that
Eve.
up.
No, you want me
You want to be in a picture? Come in.
I do.
Might as
Let me
well.
take
No.
pictures.
No? Oh, come on.
You have to get in the middle.
Yeah, yes, you have to get in the middle.
And let me get out of the way here.
I was gonna,
Good job.
that's here, let me get your sign. Yeah.
Okay, I
Come on,
know how to
Bruce.
do this.
Jack,
You
you
look
want
like
to
a
be in the
professor.
picture, Jack? Jack? No? Want to be in the picture?
Come on.
We need more people in the picture.
Actually, this is a good picture.
You have to push the button.
Yeah, wait, I'm sorry, it's, okay. There we go.
Let
Smile.
me get you,
Okay.
let me get you to do.
Yeah, stand up, 'cause it,
Okay, hold on one second. You want one on your camera? Okay. Okay, Jack, any more people in here?
actually,
Or
it made a
Eve,
nice
you can be
picture.
in here.
I'll be in it, but it made a nice picture.
I'm sure. I'll stand. You stand. Women on the wall, that's mostly men. Oh, come on, gotta get in the picture. Oh, gosh. So many of these people don't want to be in the picture. I'm sorry.
He wants to get into the picture with you.
Well, I just don't want to watch
Come
it.
in.
Oh,
Come on in, come on in, come on in.
here, I'll get it up here and you stand right there.
Well, you should be up, 'cause you're the leader.
Oh,
Yeah, you're here.
Yeah.
Everybody,
Let him go.
everybody go this way.
You're good.
Freeze
Stand
and
up.
cheese.
You're good. I can hold this.
Okay, just a second. Okay. Okay, one more time.
Common Core.
We'd be frowning.
And one more, this is my
Frowning.
signature thing. Everybody's got to point to the sign.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Jack, point to the sign, no.
No, point to this side, this side.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine.
And look at the camera.
Look at the camera.
Okay, here we go.
There we go.
Good. All right. Send me a picture too.
Yes.
We'll put it on.
This is William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, please leave comments below. Better yet, like us, follow us, or subscribe to us and get notices of all our videos. We love it even when you call. When visiting Linahan's restaurant on Mockingbird, tell them you want your reservation to the next activist meeting. Space is limited, so make your reservations early. Call 214-696-0800.